Hello everybody, Scott Golden with the Pro Wrestling Logic YouTube channel and the World Class Championship Wrestling Review Series. I guess you can say the beat goes on. Lots of action this week, more segments than normal, couple interviews in here as well. 21st of July 1984, in the midst of summer, and some newer talents, they didn't do a review segment this week, so that means they've got new talents they want to get over, which is a good thing. Scott Irwin, brother to Bill Irwin, otherwise known as the Destroyers previously, against Mike Reed. Reed, of course, a perennial enhancement talent, and Skandar Akbar held on to Irwin post the masks. So Irwin, Scott Irwin, the bigger of the Irwin brothers. I'd almost say kind of thicker, stockier, bigger by about 30, 40 pounds, I would guess. I don't really know, but definitely different stylistically. Not as agile as Bill, but more a bruiser. Anyway, they have not really done a lot with him in the Scott Irwin persona, so giving him a squashed win, probably a good idea for the fans at home who do not know a lot about him in his natural habitat of persona. Anyway, really basic match. Mike Reed getting a little more offense than would be advisable, getting arm ringers and arm bars and the like. Fighting from underneath, not ever really getting any major offense, but getting enough that if you're trying to get Scott Irwin over as lethal on his own as a non-tag team guy, I think he should be a little more aggressive here. Lays on him for about a good 60 seconds with a headlock, and certainly 1984 you can do that, but you know, we're talking almost 38 years ago. It's a different time, but at the same time, if you're trying to really take a guy to the next level with an audience, I think you got to have a little more action base to it, not flipping all over the place, but certainly keeping the match moving consistently. And this is more punch, kick, cheat type stuff. It's working with this Texas crowd, though, as they are reacting in the Sportatorium. Short kicks and punches and that from Irwin get things going where everybody wants them to go. And it's certainly a different approach than many would use, but, it's there. I mean, he chunks down to a reverse chin lock. And like I said, Reed is a guy who previously he has not been consistent enough that he should be this much a threat to a guy you're going to feature on your television, especially with some of the talent that is coming over the next month or two. It would be very easy for Scott Irwin to fall behind the wayside and behind the eight ball with the talent that's already here and such. But needless to say, Reed kind of slides in, tries to go for a big splash, doesn't get it, and then we see Hog Irwin go up to the second rope on the inside, hits that superplex, which is Destroyer friendly, and gets the victory. We move on to a secondary match. Buddy Roberts still in the area. Haven't seen as much of Michael Hayes and Terry Gordy as is normal, although I believe they are on this week's program, or at least one of them is. Yep, Gordy is in your main event. So anyway, Buddy Roberts and George Weingroff, interesting match. Which again, probably trying to get Weingroff over as a singles talent. We've seen him match with guys like Johnny Madrill, or Mantell rather, I'm sorry, earlier to try and show the wrestling skill. Buddy Roberts is a guy that you can use to get heat, throw you off, and, he'll cower for you, he'll sell for you, he'll look like a guy that's inept when he's really not, in order to get over your newer talent. And Weingroff can use that here. Weingroff, basic hip tosses, but firing up well and doing what needs to do. Roberts bails to the outside. It's clear that he does not in any way want to waste energy. And it's also clear that he is fighting the urge to cheat along the way, which he does do throughout the match. Arm locks, hammer locks, and the like get things going in his general direction. And then Weingroff kind of tries to get arm-based submission, kind of doing the rowboat thing. Works that for several minutes, and which I love. I love when there's submission-based work, even if the submission hold doesn't factor into the finish. I mean, trying to win at every turn should be the focus of every guy. And whether you're using the ring apron, like is popular these days, or the turnbuckles, or whatever you're doing as a heel, you need to cheat and cut corners, because you can't win any other way. And we see that with Robert standing on the throat of his adversary and many other things, but suplex doesn't get what he wants out of it. And we go through with a large atomic drop, 1-2, out the back door. A lot of back and forth in this particular match. Weingroff showing that he can go at a quicker clip when he's in there with a guy who can move about. So that is also useful, helpful, and beneficial. A roll-up by Weingroff and a 3 count. He gets the victory. We then see footage from a house show, as there is a Texas title controversy here. The attempt by Kevin Von Erich to go after Ric Flair, and there's a run-in that causes the championship to be held up. 2 referees in there, and certainly a fresh slam is a big deal there. Interesting that there's a red canvas on that, and the referees seem to stop it. They really don't talk a great deal about why there is the distraction, but the involvement of people from the outside is the main reason for the championship controversy. Gino Hernandez talking about the Von Erichs with several ladies, and he's at the beach. He talks about being better than the Von Erichs, being around for 10 years, being a heartthrob, being a mainstay in Texas, being whatever he wants to be. The America's champion, the Texas champion, eventual world champion, basically going on about all of his virtues. And in a lot of ways, I think they had to at least be partially concerned about turning Gino Hernandez babyface, in that, he had a cool factor for teenage to early 20-something males that in Texas, I think he would have gotten over. So it was a interesting thing to run him with the Von Erichs. I think they had to run him with the Von Erichs for that reason. He does have the American Championship still. Gino Hernandez and Chief J Strongbow, or Jules Strongbow rather, Kerry Von Erich, making a clear statement that he wants to get his hands on the America's Championship. And Hernandez, Von Erich and Hernandez coming up is a marquee matchup. And I think one thing that World Class does very well is they know how to draw main event heels into angles that can last 6 months or longer. I think there are promotions that never learned that. They burn through a bunch of talent, and obviously the taunting and all that of Kerry Von Erich leads to Hernandez and Von Erich going to blows before the match. Obviously, they are going to do battles beforehand, and referees have to come down and kind of get everybody back on the same page before the match can happen here. So obviously, as we move forward through the summer, it's going to be Kerry Von Erich and Gino Hernandez for that main American title, maybe the Texas title, maybe both. But Jules Strongbow has the, I guess, unenviable task of being a guy who has to stand in there after all that mess. And obviously his job is to kind of go in and fight and be, a tackle dummy, pretty much. Hernandez, not that he needs the extra heat, but at the same time, when you've got a heel that's about to go with the top former world champion babyface in the territory, you heat him up as hard as you can, and he doesn't want to let Jules back in the ring after Jules is stalking around on the outside a little bit. One thing that's really cool about Hernandez is he will give a lot of offense to his baby faces, whoever they may be, even if they're not at his level, even if they're a level below in terms of credibility or intensity. But he will always come back with a cheating way to bring the match back around his way, and that is the mark of an awesome heel. Strongbow comes back at him with several chops, gets a near fall that almost leads him to, look like he could beat the champion, and then sends him into the ropes, rolls him up 1, 2, and 3, and gets a win off a roll up. I didn't think about that. Might have used a little bit of the tights or just angularly, but Hernandez certainly is willing to do whatever it takes to get things done, and that is clear. We go into the main event, and they're given about 7 or so minutes as Mike and Kevin Von Erich face off against the tandem of Terry Gordy and Killer Khan. Gordy and Khan, of course, friends. Gordy, the one to bring Khan over, and Khan over the last. I'm sorry, it's Chris Adams and Kevin Von Erich. For some reason, look like Mike, and I think it's because they kind of had a similar haircut for a little while. So Adams and Von Erich against Gordy and Khan. But Khan been made to look a little bit more aggressive, assertive in the past few weeks. Match kind of breaks down. We see Kevin take a good deal of punishment. Still wrestling barefoot on most events, and that's a little dangerous in that ring that doesn't get washed very often, but, those are his decisions. The Freebirds and Von Erich's thing now going a year and a half. Spinning neckbreaker by Gordy gets things really firing up, and Khan doing the damage to Chick Donovan. The Von Erichs want to avenge their friend, as seems to be a common theme here in World Class. Von Erichs avenging their friends. I guess they're friendly fellows. Anyway, so the attempt of the use of the claw, but Khan's able to break free. The cut off of the ring by Gordy and Khan is pretty pronounced for the next several minutes. Kevin takes a good bit of punishment before he makes his way over and makes the tag to Chris Adams. Adams comes in and is not intimidated by Khan, who, to be fair, is in a bit of a compromising position down on the mat and such. Gordy comes back in, and we see Adams and Gordy for a little bit. Gordy using the power advantage. I think one of the things that Gordy has going for him is he's one of the few guys that are at his size. Adams cannot get the victory. Adams has dropped down the card a little bit since the Jimmy Garvin feud. Garvin seems to have disappeared, left the territory without much explanation, which is unfortunate. Anyway, the claw is placed on when Khan tags back into the ring. Looks to be going for the spike. Does not get what he wants out of the spike and instead gets caught in the claw. And this does not make anybody happy except Kevin Von Erich. They seem to actually tackle the ringside cameraman there for a minute. And the referee calls for the stop to the match. And chaos ensues with people brawling all around. And needless to say, the brawls of the Von Erichs and bits of the Freebirds and Killer Khan continue over the next several minutes. But that's how we close the show, with the Von Erichs and the partial Freebirds and Killer Khan all brawling around as we close the 21st of July here in 1984. We'll be back with more. Keep your feet on the ground, your mind in the moment.